coming to you from the home of the mini trees. Inspirational, motivational, so come along with us.
Hi, welcome back to Pixel Talk. This week's edition brings you my interview with Stuart Schmill, the Dean of Admissions at MIT, Samik Shotria's book review on A Gang Leader for a Day, and, sorry, no more third segment this time, finals season. Hi, my name is Tej Singh, and I'm broadcasting from New Jersey on behalf of Stanford Online High School students from across the globe. So, hello world. With us here today is Mr. Stuart Schmill, the Dean of Admissions at MIT. Thank you so much for your time. I sincerely appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
A lot of students are becoming interested in pursuing tech entrepreneurship after college. So what is MIT doing to attract those students, since they might be good at math and science, but not necessarily interested in hardcore engineering? Because MIT does have a great business school, but a lot of the time the perception people still have is that it's a heavily science-based school instead of in business.
Yeah, it is interesting about these perceptions, and I know we'll talk about them as we go through. I mean, MIT has one of the most active and vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystems around. The space around MIT, in Kendall Square, for example, right adjacent to our campus, as well as the entire Boston and Cambridge area, is really vibrant with startups in different industries. Startups, there's a lot of venture capital here, and companies, I think, understand this ecosystem and have been moving to it, and it's been growing. The biotech industry, certainly information technology, green technology, all of that is really quite vibrant here. And MIT students do have a deep interest in creating new ventures, starting companies. That's always been true. I mean, MIT has always been about creating new things and innovating. And I think one of the things that you do get at MIT is a really deep knowledge, both technical, but also on the other aspects of what you need, the kinds of skills you need to be able to successfully start a company. There was a study done just a couple of years ago that shows that if you look at all of MIT's living alumni, it's about 130,000 living alumni. Those alumni have started 26,000 companies, and they estimate that 2/3 of those companies are still in existence. Wow. And it's the kind of thing where our students really are given quite a deep knowledge and set of skills to be successful in their ventures.
And it certainly is true that there are a lot of talent, especially in business, in MIT. With Drew Houston, he gave the commencement speech at MIT. He founded Dropbox, and just in general in that area, there are such a pool of great geniuses, with another great school being not too far from you down the road. Speaking of that, how does MIT differentiate itself from the other schools?
Well, it's interesting. I think first I want to make it clear that we also collaborate. So we differentiate, but also collaborate. And particularly with Harvard, there are a number of really strong collaborations that exist. The Broad Institute for Genomic Research is another example, is a good example, as well as some of our life science programs and research institutes. So there are some good collaborations that occur, as well as the easy ability for students to cross-register between the two places. But yeah, I mean, I think we're a different place. And I think it's one of the great things about the higher education system in the US is that universities are different. And I think MIT has a unique set of strengths, and other schools have different sets of strengths. And I think students and faculty try to find the places that are the best match for their interests. And I think for MIT, we're a place that's certainly well centered on science and engineering. But we, of course, do have other areas that are very strong, the social sciences, economics, political science, linguistics. There's a whole range of things, not to mention the business school, of course, School of Architecture and Urban Planning. Very strengths across the board, but students essentially often come here, have a real interest and facility with analytic thinking. And that's something that MIT really fosters. And then you learn how to use that analytic thinking to solve the big problems that exist in the world.
And And there certainly has been a lot of collaboration between edX or even the Coop, the bookstore, as an MIT and Harvard version. And so where do you think the future is in terms of how, because a major milestone in MOOCs or the online courses was the collaboration between MIT and Harvard and edX. Where do you see MIT's role in education in the long term? Will there be more online classes, or do you see, just in general, virtual learning?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think you point out a great collaboration again, which I think as we go into the future, collaboration, I think you'll see more of it, and certainly it's a way to make things better. I mean, when you problem solve, you don't do it alone. You bring in the views of others, and I think edX is a good example of that. I do think that online learning is going to change the way students learn. It already has. I mean, there are a number of pilot used online learning to enhance the educational experience, the learning in the classroom. I think also there'll be opportunities for students to not be tied to a location. I mean, obviously, here, look who I'm talking to in terms of understanding the value and the power of what online learning can be in terms of its ability, number one, to not force students to be tied to a location, but also the types of collaborations that the internet can foster can really be very powerful. And I think you see this in your classes, certainly, the ability to interact with like-minded students of the same high caliber. And I think that is going to, I think the use of that in more traditional learning settings is going to grow.
And that's, what were you saying about it's going to grow? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would say I do think it's going to grow. And I do think there is value, of course, in place-based education where people are able to be together. And I think what you'll see are these hybrids that will emerge more to allow more flexibility. And I think there are a lot of examples of that. Certainly some of the way that our classes are being taught here at MIT. Certainly a great example of this, of course, is Khan Academy. And, you can, and of course, Sal Khan, who's an MIT graduate, I think it's really developed a phenomenal program to allow students really to individualize learning. And that's very, very powerful.
Certainly that's been seen. I watched your interview with you and Mr. Khan, and the type of education that's been brought forth and the number of students who have been able to help with this is amazing. We recently interviewed Coursera's COO, and even if you look at schools like Stanford Online High School, I think there's close to 30 countries being represented at our school. It's unbelievable what you would have thought of. No one could have imagined it 15 years ago.
Yeah, and think how valuable that is. I mean, one of the great things about education, certainly, and the way students learn is adding in perspectives from their fellow classmates. It's certainly true here at MIT, right? Students learn more from each other than they do from any other mechanism. I presume you have a similar experience, and think of the students that you get to interact with around the globe. Kind of thing that certainly 20 years ago or more didn't really have the ability to do that.
Hi, my name is Saniq, and today I will be reviewing a book called Gang Leader for a Day by Sudhir Venkatesh. In the beginning of the book, the author was a grad student at the University of Chicago, and he was focusing on sociology. One of his assignments was to go to the project housing in the dangerous area of Chicago and ask the people living there questions. So he got everything ready. He got his clipboard with his pencil with all his questions, and he drove over to the dangerous area of Chicago. And when he walked into the project, he was in for a huge surprise. He saw that most or even all of the people there were actually gang members. And the questions that he had weren't necessarily suitable for those gang members. Like one of the questions was, how does it feel to be black and poor? And the only answer choices were, very bad, somewhat bad, neither good nor bad, somewhat good, very good. The answers that the gang members gave are too vulgar for me to say here. But Sudhir Venkatesh went back to his dorm and he got rid of all the clipboard questions and he tried to reconstruct the best method to ask those gang members what he wanted and get what he wanted. So he went back continuously, and over time he befriended the gang leader JT. And the book that he wrote chronicles his journey and his friendship with the gang leader and all the interesting things that he learned about the gang life. This book has been recommended by Mark Zuckerberg, and I hope you would read it. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Until then,